guys. Cameras in the back. You want to let us know when you're ready. Damon, you good? All right. Thanks, everybody. Start with the opening statement from Coach Brennan, then we'll take your questions.
All right, thanks for coming. Obviously, everybody in the building is disappointed with the performance last weekend at Iowa State. They're a good football team, and I give them a lot of credit. Coaching staff, their players, how they played. I thought their quarterback was excellent in that game. And so, for me, the biggest thing there was just our lack of execution when we talk about red line, and that part was frustrating and disappointing. And so, yesterday was a good day for us to assess everything, get back to work, reset, and I think a huge part of red line is accountability and own it, fix it, and that's what we had to do as coaches and as players, and that's what we dove into yesterday. It's a big week for us, right? We've got a really tough opponent coming in here in Oklahoma State. I know we've got a lot of things going on this weekend, which is going to be a great weekend for just Arizona athletics altogether. We're excited about the Hispanic Heritage game. I think that's always a really special game in this city, in this stadium, and so we're looking forward to that. But more above all things, I'm looking forward to getting back on the practice field tomorrow with this team. I'm looking forward to attacking the process that's going to give us a chance to play the kind of football we want to play at Arizona. I'll take your questions.
Thank you, Coach. Start with Justin and then David.
So after watching the film of the passes with Noah and the receivers, what did you take away on how that wasn't able to get going?
I think it was a combination. I think I mentioned this the other night, a little bit of him at times, him getting moved off his spot, and then I think he missed a couple throws. And I think that's just, that was frustrating and disappointing. And knowing Noah Fifita, he's going to dive into the process, is going to give him a chance to hit those throws because no one cares more about this football team and this football program than he does.
And then do you feel like maybe now he's still learning how to get those game reps with some of those receivers and is still developing chemistry?
I think chemistry is an ongoing thing. I think, those guys invested a ton of time this offseason and, in terms of throwing and catching and doing a lot of that work on their own. But there's nothing that simulates the speed of the game. You know what I mean? I think, I should have said this in my opening statement, just like when you look at a game like that overall, when you're playing a top 12, 15 team on the road, you can't turn the ball over 4 times, right? Like you can't not execute on third down on either side of the ball at a level that's good enough to give you a chance to win. You have to play clean, and we didn't do that, right? Our penalties were better, but it still wasn't good enough. And so in that game, there was just huge momentum swings and opportunities for us to respond, and we did not respond collectively in the right way. We didn't answer, we didn't support each other, right? We didn't, and so that part was really frustrating.
David and then Troy.
Brent, how did you evaluate the first interception from the respect that the short game kind of had been working to that point, especially on that drive, and then the route tree there was just kind of 20-plus yards downfield with a dump out. What did you think of that play call there?
So say that again.
So the first interception.
You gave me so much in that question. Like what's the question?
What did you think of the play?
I love the play call. I love the play call, and it's a play that Noah has been able to complete with high, percentages, over the time this season. So, I think there was some coaching points there that, we didn't have great flat control. And so that corner was able to push up underneath it and make the interception. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And in terms of some of the snapping issues we've seen with Avery on the special teams, what are you identifying there, maybe why some of his snaps are off?
I think that's one of those things that we need to clean up. And Avery's a great kid and a super hard worker, and I know he will get that fixed. But that's something that we need to clean up.
Troy and Michael.
2 questions. One, in terms of the availability report, how it went with that process, just your thoughts on that real quick. Just the process of that you've seen around.
The availability report is great. I think it's, hopefully it removes a lot of conversation about player injuries. And, I know you guys have heard me talk about it before, but I just feel like sometimes when you have a good player who's injured or a player of interest that's injured, the entire week or the entire narrative becomes about that one player who's not even available to play anyway, right? I'd rather talk about the guys that are playing. I'd rather talk about the opponent that's coming in here. I'd rather talk about the opportunity that is in front of Arizona football.
And then for Noah Fifita, you were talking about that accuracy stuff. Do you see anything in terms of, in footwork, stuff like that, just mechanical stuff?
Yeah, I think he's moving around a little bit too much back there, and I think he would tell you the same thing. And I think that's one of those things that him and Coach Daggy will get cleaned up, starting tomorrow.
Michael and then
In your opinion, after watching the film, could Dalton Johnson have done anything differently on that play where he got into the return?
No.
Do you think that it should have been a penalty because?
I know you know I can't answer that. So thank you for the question.
All right, and then another one, the offensive line, I thought probably played the
Real
best
positive.
game.
There's some good stuff up front there. There's some good stuff in this game up front. Our O-line, right? No false starts, right? We were disciplined in a hard place to play. I was excited about that. I thought that was a positive. I thought that did show some good red line. I thought our effort was good in the O&D line. You know, when they run the ball 47 times and average 2.4 a carry, like that's a hell of a day against a good football team on the road, you know? It's the other stuff that I mentioned. It's the turnovers. It's the big plays. It's the, like, us not responding to those momentum swings where we had to answer and we didn't. And that's what we're all going crazy. We're all so pissed off about.
Jenna and then Brian.
Two questions. Before the season, you spoke about how devastating losses were last year, and even with wins that the team just couldn't really bounce back and it kind of snowballed. Did you notice a difference in how the locker room felt after this loss?
That's a good question. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's one of those things that, I think, you know, I've said ad nauseum in here that, like, I'm not looking backwards. I'm thinking about this football team this year at the University of Arizona. And so are the players. That's where they're at. This is a much different team, right? 62 new players. You know, so I think I'm excited to see how we respond for practice tomorrow. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see.
And what stands out to you about Oklahoma State just early?
A couple things. You know, I think their quarterback's a dual threat guy, and he can be a problem with his arm and his legs. They've got a really, really good group of receivers, and they've done a good job of putting together, you know, guys that are explosive, and then also some big body guys. Their running back is a good player. You know, on defense, they have a lot of experience, especially in the secondary, guys that have had a ton of snaps. And then their defensive front is big and long. You know what I mean? And so, you know, that part of it, you know, the story and all the stuff they're going through, we're going to get their best shot here on Saturday, and we know that.
Brian and then Jason.
Well, going off that, do you have any experience playing against a team, coaching against a team that has recently made a change like that, and what kind of difference do you see in an opponent when that happens?
I don't know that I have a great answer for that. Every team is different, right? Like this team with what they're going through is going to be different than, you know, what UCLA is going through this week. So, you know, I don't have any experience coaching against them.
And with this game being at noon, what are you hoping for as far as the environment?
I'm hoping 55,000 Arizona crazy ass fans are in the stands going nuts. That's what I want. That's what I want. I want the city of Tucson to fall in love with this football team and show up and show out and make it hard for our opponents to come in here and play.
Jason and then Justin.
There's been a couple fair catches with punts inside the 5 and things like that. And how would you assess the punt returns overall?
I would assess that's not good enough, right? We're not coaching that, and that needs to be fixed.
Could there be a personnel change, or is it something you just in practice you kind of?
We're gonna flesh that out in practice. We're gonna continue to have that conversation. I think that's one of those things. Sometimes that's hard when you, as a punt returner, when you get driven back and you know you're tracking the flight of the football, right? So like having it comes down to a feel for where you are on the yard line. You know what I mean? And so that part of it, I think we need to be better at.
And then you're coming up on for some of the freshmen, the 4 games, redshirt and all that.
Yep.
How do those discussions go, if there are even discussions, or is it kind of, if you're playing, you're playing?
If you're helping this football team win games, you're playing.
Justin and then David.
So there were a handful of guys that we didn't really get to see. Was Ken kind of like a just in case situation?
Absolutely. Yeah, Kev was just in case situation. I also think Ishmael Mahdi has earned the right to play, right? I think he's 300 plus yards in the last 2 games of total offense. He's proven to be a effective runner, a really strong pass catcher, and also a effective pass protector. And so, but we can't wait to get Ked back. We hope that happens, you know, that he's ready to rock and roll Saturday.
And I don't know how much you're able to disclose about this, but Riley Wilson, what he went through during training camp, and what does it mean to get him back and see him playing healthy?
It's awesome. It's awesome to get Riley back. I think I have this conversation with players a lot, right? The best thing you can do is make the most of the opportunities you get, whether that's in practice or on game day, right? If you get 10 plays, those 10 plays need to say that you should get 20. And so I thought Riley did a fantastic job of that on Saturday night.
David and then Damien.
Just kind of follow Brent on the question about the punt return. I mean, there was the one where Jeremiah couldn't catch it because there was some traffic there with the
Right.
on. And obviously probably the right decision, you want to be safe there, but is there a technique for that blocker to maybe not be in the catch zone to give your return
Yes, that engagement needs to happen 15 yards earlier in the field, and Luke was in a great position to do that, and he is a super try-hard kid, Luke Wysong, a tough kid, and he'll get that fixed.
Damien and then Michael.
Trey Zooks, your thoughts on his play just Saturday?
I thought he played great, and we're so happy to have him back. He's a leader. He's an excellent player. He's played a ton of football, so his experience and his leadership are going to be critical for this football team as we continue to play.
Michael and then Troy.
I've got the sense, watching that game on Saturday, that Iowa State had kind of been there and done that, and maybe you guys quite hadn't been in that position. Is there a process in terms of learning how to win in those types of environments, and maybe some lessons you can learn from this for the next time that you go on the road?
Yeah, I mean, there's absolutely lessons that you can learn. I think the simplest thing that you can learn from that is when you play one of the top teams in your conference at their place, you cannot turn the ball over 4 times. You can't do that. Just start with that. Just start with that. It's the simplest one to point to, right? But then the other things that are big is third down on both sides of the ball was not good enough, right? We're not nearly good enough. And then also the big plays. Our lack of explosives on offense, and then their explosive on defense. And when I look at that, the big plays that they made, right? The trick play, great execution, great call. Tip my hat. You know what I mean? The throws that Rocco made outside down the field were big time, fantastic football throws. And we're right there. Like, we'll finish those plays, right? We just missed them that night. You know what I mean? But those balls dropped in the absolute perfect place, and we just didn't finish them. The defense back position, but we will.
Also had a couple slants that they broke for big yardage with a lot of yak. And you guys didn't have much in the way of yak in that game. Is that because of the way their defense was playing, their tackling? What did you see in that?
I think both. I think they play with a lot of defensive backs. They do a good job of keeping a roof on things. Not as much aggressive pressure as we are. So different. So anytime you add somebody to the front, right? If that ball gets out, there's less people in the back to tackle, right? And so, and I think, you look at the play I think that you're talking about coming right out of halftime, right? Our best player, Genesis Smith, missed a tackle, right? Genesis will make that tackle this week. You know what I mean? I believe in Genesis as much, if not more, than any player on this football team.
Troy and then Justin.
You guys made the switch to Isaac Loveson for the game. Just your thoughts on his performance.
Isaac did great. I think that's where we need to be. We need to be, over 40 yards. In terms of net punting, and I thought that was a really good battle. And we keep that competition is ongoing. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's one of those things that sometimes gets lost when you get in the season. Like, we're still pushing everybody in practice. We're still trying to improve every day we step out there, and the best way we can do that is by putting those players, whether it's our punter, doesn't matter who it is, with pressure in his position group to continue to press and continue to excel in the practice environment.
Justin and then David.
So we saw Tristan Bounds start at right tackle in Chuba. In previous games, we saw guys kind of rotate. What did they show you to give them kind of that starting spot all the way through the game?
Well, I think they were playing, just the flow of the game. That part of it was, I thought they were doing a really good job. I saw Tristan play with, the most physicality he's played with all year, and I was excited about that. And so, as we continue, the good news is that we have some depth in the offensive line, right? We feel good about playing all those guys, you know what I mean? And so that part is really important. It's a long football season. We're 4 games in. We got a lot of football left to play. And so all of those guys are going to be incredibly important as we continue to go.
Our last 2 will be David and Jason.
Brent, there was some question on your decision to punt back up in the red zone there in the second half. Just what went into the thought process there?
Where are you talking about?
I think you guys were inside your own red zone.
It was like 4th and 2 inside the 15, about 10 and a half minutes left.
Okay, wait, say that again. It was a 4th and 2. We were where?
You were inside your own 15, backed up against your end zone.
Okay.
And you guys.
And you want us to go for that?
Well, no. But there was a question about the decision to punt there.
Oh,
Because you're down in the game and you might have an opportunity.
I thought Iowa State was incredibly efficient in the red zone, especially in the low red, and I was not going to give them a free opportunity there. Like, I was going to make them work for it.
And how do you prepare for a two-point conversion maybe that you have not seen defensively like the one they ran in the first touchdown?
We have to be better at that. Plain and simple. That is not okay. Like, and we know that, and Coach Gonzalez knows that, and we will get that fixed. Because that's not a lineup 2-point play. I mean, it ended up scoring 2, but how they aligned it, and we'll be better.
So that's more of a defense versus
Yes.
special team?
Yes.
Finish up with Jason.
As someone that's coached quite a few wide receivers, how do you deal with drops overall, especially when it starts to become a little bit of a pattern?
I think it's really simple. I think the old school way when I was playing, or I see Ricky in here when Ricky was playing, the coach would just yell at you and say, "Catch the effing ball." That was the coaching point. You know what I mean? It's like the worst coaching point of all time. You know what I mean? So for me, just having played the position, I'm more of trying to talk to the player. Where'd you miss it? Like what in your technique was? Were your hands behind your eyes? Were your eyes late to it? Did you pick it up late? Did it hit the lights? Did you not fight it through the lights? Did the sun hit it? Like, just trying to help them be better about, like, technically the catch, right? Because everything with that is, and I've been really aggressive in going to increase, so just in eyes to tuck, like eyes to securing the ball. So catching that ball and then seeing yourself lock it away is the lightning rod moment in all of college football for me right now, because it cost Florida State a game. If you watch that game the other night, right? Just like it's a fundamental thing, and so many of our young people spend so much time watching the NFL, and all those guys do all kinds of this crazy stuff with the football, and those guys can do that crazy stuff with the football when they get to the NFL, but not when they're playing for the University of Arizona. That ball, we're supposed to take that ball out of the air and get it on our body right now. Just like Spivey did on the touchdown, where he's going to get smashed, right? But the reason he was able to possess the football is because he plucked it out of the air, snatched it to his body where he's strong and powerful. So,
All right, thank you, everybody.
bear down.